Okay, you do. Okay, you see, I'll just talk about the big guys. This is Xi Jinping, Chinese leader. This is Park Geun-hye, the South Korean president. And over there is Shinzo Abe. Last time Shinzo Abe visited Israel, two Japanese reporters lost their head because ISIS beheaded them, was trying to threaten Japan. They all visited the GCC and the Middle East. So let's start. Okay. Now, the economy plays an important role in the relation between the GCC and Asia. When I talk about Asia, I'll mainly focus on China, but I'll talk about Korea and Japan as well. Oil is important, gas is important for all these states. The billions of dollars of contracts of constructions and infrastructures that Chinese companies, Korean companies, and even Japanese companies are building in China. In the last few years, Qatar, for example, and Saudi Arabia are working on funding oil refineries in Saudi and in China as well. Now, the billions are important for both sides, and one of the questions is, are we facing a new world order in the Middle East? That a new balance of power, which on the one hand will see the decline of the United States. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but just in case. And on the other side, we might see the rise of China. For now, it looks as if there won't be a new world order for the next few years, because the Chinese are saying that for now we are neutral, but this is just for now. Now, some of the questions are, the Chinese are saying that we don't have any intentions of changing the balance of power in the region, but when a superpower like China says one thing, it is important to see how the regional players perceive it. For example, what does it mean when Xi Jinping visits the Middle East? Is it a friendly visit? Is it just for business, or does it have other intentions? Now, China says that it will not have any military combat in the region, as Washington asked her to participate in Syria, for example. But when one sees a Chinese Navy in the region, one should ask himself, is it just for securing the sea lanes, or does it have another purpose, for example, projecting power versus the United States? Now, another important thing is the new bank in town, which is the AIIB, which is the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. This is another mechanism, billions of dollars mechanism that allows China to increase its influence in the region, not just in the Middle East, the Gulf, but in Central Asia as well, by using the billions of dollars in the bank to promote projects in the region. One example is the Egyptian Prime Minister is hoping that China will give a few billions of dollars for the Suez Canal. I must say, someone asked in the previous panel about Tachlis. One positive thing about Israel is that Israel decided to join the GCC, while the United States did not, nor did the Japanese. And good job for the Israeli government. Well, one thing, good job for them. Now, China, because it imports oil, gas, and invests money in the region, it sees the GCC as an important asset and a strategic importance for its interest in the region. The same thing can be said about Japan and Korea. Most of its oil and gas, Japanese oil and gas and Korean oil and gas come from the region, and the Koreans, and mainly the Koreans, were investing billions of dollars in the region, and we're looking for investment. Now, let me talk about Park Geun-hye. Park Geun-hye, let me show a picture. You can't see, but I'll say it in a minute. Park Geun-hye is the current president of South Korea. Her father is Park Chung-hee, who was the president of South Korea during the 70s and during the 60s and the 70s. During his term, mainly in the 70s, Korean companies were doing very well in the GCC area. They were building projects in billions of dollars, which the Koreans called it the first Middle East boom. Park Geun-hye was looking for the second Middle East boom during her term as the South Korean president, and the Arab Spring did not allow her to make billions. After the P5+1 in Iran was signed, Paganel was able to go to Iran and to make billions of dollars. Previous Im Yong-bak was able to make billions of dollars as well in the GCC. I know Iran is not a GCC, but they see the area as an important place to do business for them. Now, James Carville said, he said it's the economy, and later became it's the economy is stupid. I'm not saying anyone is stupid, but FTA is an important indication of the importance of the economy between two states. Now, Japan, China, and South Korea are holding negotiation with the GCC to sign an FTA. It was postponed for a few times, but now it is perceived that in the near future, all three states might sign an FTA with the GCC. Now, one of the questions is, would the GCC, would the FTA, will influence an FTA with Israel? Theoretically, there's no connection, but in reality, I would say without an FTA with the GCC or with any Arab states, mainly Korea would not sign an FTA with Israel, although they started the negotiation with us. Now, a few more things. In the last few years, the United States decreased its oil import from the GCC. In a way, by doing so, it diminished the leverage that Saudi Arabia had in the past on Washington. They decreased. China increased its oil import and gas from the region. They import more oil and gas, even more than the EU. And the same can be said about Japan and Korea. Now, the main oil exports to China are Saudi Arabia, UAE, Iran, Iraq, and Kuwait. And one should say that once the P5+1, all the sanctions were lifted, Iran will increase its oil export to China. Now, the Chinese have even a plan for us. They plan to build a train from the Red Sea to Haifa port, which will allow them to export commodities from the GCC towards Europe and elsewhere. Now, we spoke about the GCC. In Dubai now, there are about 10% of the Dubai population is Chinese. It's estimated that there are between 200 and 300 Chinese doing business in Dubai. Dubai has become a logistics center for Chinese company, and Dubai has become a dialogue center for Chinese. For example, they have a dialogue with the Taliban over there, even with or without the Americans' cooperation. Now, China has good relations with all the states in the regions. They have a dialogue with the Middle East organizations such as the Arab League. They even have relations with the states that dislike each other. For example, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Chinese leaders visited all states. The last visit of Xi Jinping was in Saudi Arabia and Iran at the same time, and those states were not allowed to say no to the Chinese. Now, we spoke about oil, we spoke about gas. The important is the transportation. And this is the new Silk Road. You can't see, but this is called One Belt, One Road, which is one belt, one road, and it includes the maritime Silk Road. So the blue is sea lanes, and the red is ground. So let me talk about it for a few minutes. Now, One Belt, One Road is the Silk Road, which was initiated by President Xi Jinping in 2013 or 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And according to the Chinese Foreign Minister, Wang Yi, Qatar will play an important role in this road by funding or by being an important player in promoting this. Now, the question will Qatar will look to the east or look to the west? Will it become pro-American or pro-Chinese? I think Qatar will maximize both ways. Or there's an option that the One Belt, One Road will bypass the GCC by going through Iran. Now, one of the options is not just building a train from the Eilat port to Haifa port. Another one is, and President Sisi asked Xi Jinping to support the building of a second Suez Canal that will allow the One Belt, One Road move through Egypt and not just through Israel. Now, there are good news and bad news. And the good news depends on your philosophy. One is the One Belt, One Road will improve the trade between the nations along the Silk Road, which is a positive thing, and I highly support it. Now, Chinese are saying that the One Belt, One Road will ease the tension between the states along the road, which is, one would say, liberal mercantilism. Some would say wishful thinking. Would it ease the tension between India and Pakistan? He says, no, I must agree. Would it ease the tension between Sunnite and Shiite? The answer is no. But if the Chinese are saying it, I support it fully, even if it's not true. Now, it didn't work with North Korea, but it might work with others. But business is important. Now, the Maritime Silk Road raises a difficult question about the sea lanes. Sea lanes are important for Japan, important for Korea, and important for China as well. If you block the sea lanes, it causes a problem for their trade. Even for India, although it's on the other side of Asia. Now, this is one of the problems, or one of the indications for a problem. You don't see, but I'll explain. This is the Spratly Island conflict. China acts in the Spratly Island as not as a status quo state, but as a revisionist state. And it shows to the world that when their interests are in stake, it is willing to use force. And the Japanese and the Koreans are concerned that the Chinese act in the Spratly Island might indicate that they might block the trade from to Korea and to Japan as well. It does not mean that they will do, but this would allow them to do so. Now, balance of power. Yes, they can change the balance of power, but they don't want to rebalance now. For the time being, it does not serve Chinese interest to do a rebalance in the Middle East. They prefer that Russia and the United States will pay the price fighting in the Middle East. Nevertheless, it's important to see how players in the region perceive this new great power in the Middle East, which means how do they think that China can balance the United States. For example, will China rebalance the United States in Saudi Arabia or not? It doesn't look like in the near future. Will China abandon leaders in the Middle East, as Washington did with Mubarak and the other? Will the next US president, Trump or Clinton, will disengage from the Middle East? Efraim Bar published a paper on this. Now, if the United States will disengage, okay, that's what I said. You should add the Chinese section to this paper. If the United States will disengage from the Middle East, someone will have to get in, and China might have to reconsider its options in the region. The Chinese are welcome in the region, although there are some saying in the Middle East that the Chinese are becoming to act like imperialists, but for the time being, everyone wants their money. So China is not perceived yet as a superpower and is not willing yet to become to balance the Washington, but it might change in the near future. So these are, you don't see, so I'll skip it. These are people, for example, this is Mubarak meeting Obama, and he smiles. Well, he didn't smile for a long time, but this is just an example. Xi Jinping with a Saudi leader playing the sword. Now, China, Japan, and Korea are participating in peacekeeping operations in the Middle East and the Gulf. China does not believe in military solution in the Middle East. Well, they don't believe even in military solution in the Korean Peninsula. They will not agree with the Riyadh policy towards Syria. Okay, I'll make it quick. Now, Beijing believes in a constructive dialogue and comprehensive measures. That's what they said to the United States whenever they asked them to interfere in Iran, Iraq, or Syria. They prefer to address the symptoms and the roots of terror. as long as it doesn't deal with Chinese issues. For example, if there was a Chinese issue in the South China Sea or with Taiwan, they might use force as they used in the 90s. Chinese concern in the last 2 or 3 years, they're starting to be concerned from the number of Uyghurs that joined ISIS. The Chinese are increasing the number on a monthly base in order to show that the Uyghur are a greater threat to their security than in reality. The Chinese are participating in fighting against piracy in order to keep the sea lanes, and they're willing to use force against pirates in the region. Even Korean and Japanese are willing to do so. They have military presence in the Gulf of Aden, Djibouti, and in Lebanon as part of the UN forces. Now, optimist and pessimist. The optimist would say that China will increase its economic cooperation with the GCC and will prevent escalation in the region, including preventing escalation with Iran. The pessimist will say that once the United States will disengage from the region, China might take its place in the region. Now the question is, do we like it or not? If you're an optimist, we would prefer the United States, but if we are optimist, we would prefer India.
Thank you.
Welcome. Bye, Ona.